The Osaka Champions League just concluded last weekend, and in this video we are going to go through the top 16 deck lists and see whether any new cards have impacted the meta. Let's go! So in the top 16, the first top 16 list we have is Charizard EX. So you can already see the impact of Budew in the format. So for those who don't know, Budew is a new Pokemon released in Prismatic Evolutions, the Japanese version of Prismatic Evolutions rather. And what it does is you can item lock your opponent for 0 energy. So even if you don't start with Budew, you can use your Pokemon searches for Budew, retreat your 1 retreat cost Pokemon and still be able to item lock your opponent turn 1 going second. So you can see this Charizard EX list plays Grand 3 instead with 2 Charmeleons and 2 Pidgeotos to respond to that, right? Because you don't want to get item lock and be unable to evolve to your Charizards and your Pidgeots while your opponent sets up. Otherwise, it's your very typical Charizard EX list. I say typical, but there's quite a bit of changes in response to Budew, right? There is still your Dusknoir builds, your Dusknoir lines rather. 3-2-3 Charizard EX line, 2-2-2 Pidgeot EX lines. So of course this deck aims to use Charizard EX's Burning Darkness, right? Actually, the name slipped my mind for a bit. So every turn you try to use Pidgeot EX as much as possible, and you have 1 Torton in the event that either number 1 you get bobbed wiped and you can still replace your any basic Pokemon left with Charmander and then evolve to your Charizard EX, or you can also remove liabilities like your Rotom Vs and Luminion Vs so that your opponent don't get easy 2-price knockouts. The next top 16 list is Dragapult EX with Budew, right? So we have mentioned about how strong Budew is. It's probably the most popular card in the new format, right? I think it's the biggest addition to the format. So it's your typical Dragapult EX list with 1 additional card that is Budew. Oh, we do have 2 copies of Lens. So Lens is coming back to Dragapult EX lists. Yep, so Lens allows you to search for Dragon Pokemon from your deck, so you have easier access to your Dragapult line, right? So, and then it's just Dragapult EX trying to spread damage as much as possible. And you have your Dusknoir line to clean up. Next up is Gardevoir EX. So we have seen a lot of Gardevoir EX lists with Budew, but this one doesn't play Budew. So very interesting. So does play Cresselia because there are a lot of Dragapult EX lists that have been popping around. So I think Cresselia does help with that. Remove damage counters, and this is the list that plays 4 Call Bells, right? So Call Bell allows you to search for a supporter from your deck. And you can only use this going going second during your turn 1. Right, this is the Precious Trolley build so that you aim to go second, get your Call Bell as much as you can because you play 4, the chances of you getting it is rather high, but if you don't get it, it's basically a useless card that you have to discard away, right, using refinement. So to be honest, I'm not a fan of the Call Bell build, but hey, it got top 16 at Japanese Champions League, so he knows better apparently. So the aim of this Call Bell build is to go second as much as possible. Use the Call Bell to find Arven. Essentially you have 8 Arvens, right? So it's either you get Call Bell for Arven or you get Arven directly. So very it increases the chance of you being able to set up turn 1 going second. So this build aims to set up faster rather than use the Budew to delay your opponent while you set up behind. So you want your Pokemon in front to use evolution as much as possible. So with a lot of decks wanting to go first previously, now with Budew we don't know yet, so this is very good going second against any deck that wants to go first. We have another Dragapult EX build, and this time it's 2 Budews instead. Yeah, so you want your Budews in front to item lock people so that you set up your Dragapult EXs behind. Yeah, what else is there? Lens is getting popular. Like, Lens is making a comeback, so I don't know why, but I guess it's to find your Draglokes because they are the harder cards to find. Because GP can be found with Buddy Poffin, right? The rest of the lines you need Ultra Balls to find them. Yep, so Lens is a good solution to that. But usually I would say turn 2 you want to what's that? Oven for Sparkling Crystal, right? But I think with Budew in front, you can item lock while you set up your Draglokes behind, so this is a slower build but more consistent, I would say. Next up we have Miraidon EX. We know what Miraidon EX does. Very, very explosive. But with Budew around, it's hard, especially when they snatch going second from you and then they Budew item lock you, so your electric generators won't be able to be used. But if you manage to snatch going second from your opponent and you do your Miraidon EX things, you turn 1 attack, turn 1 amp them, or turn 1 knock out their 2 prizer, Miraidon EX can be very, very strong. No new cards from what I see over here. 14 lightning energies and 1 DTE. Yeah, no new cards is your typical Miraidon EX list, so it's still very, very powerful. We have Lugia V-Star next, and very interestingly, I see a lot of Lugia V-Star decks playing Drapion V right now. So even without Mew VMAX in the format, we still have people playing Drapion V. I think this is in response to Gardevoir EX, so this is a very, very good solution against Gardevoir EX. And we also have Regidrago, which does huge damage to EX Pokemon. So that is the new addition to the format to Lugia V-Star decks. Other than that, it's your typical Lugia V-Star list, 4, 8, 4, 8, 12, 16 energy cards. Yep, Lugia V-Star still very, very strong going into the format. Next up we have Cerulege EX with Palkia V-Star. So Cerulege EX is a very, very popular deck at the moment because number 1, it is easy to use, and number 2, it is quite cheap to form the deck. So we have Cerulege EX, which does damage according to the number of energy cards in your discard pile, and we also have Palkia V-Star to either set up your Palkia V-Star itself or set up Greninja so that you can do spread damage, right? So other than that, it's a lot of discard, so you want to discard as many energy cards as possible, and so that you can pump up your Cerulege EX's damage. The longer the game goes, the more damage you do. So you don't want to, if you're facing a Cerulege EX, you want to end the game as soon as possible. Palkia V-Star does provide early game huge damage in case you cannot set up or you cannot discard as many cards as you want into the discard pile. So Palkia V-Star offers you the early game huge damage. Next up, we have Goldango EX with Dragapult EX. What is this I'm seeing? Okay, so we have Klefki and Budew to slow down your opponent. And I think I don't know what I'm seeing, to be honest. So you want, I think the Goldango EX is there for number 1, the draw power. And Dragapult EX is to clean up and spread damage. Very, very interesting. I don't know how it got into the top 16, but hey, it did make it to top 16, so very, very creative because you're using like 4 different energy cards, right? So you have Steel for the Godango, Lightning, Psychic and Fire for the Dragon Ball EX, and Dark Energy for the Monkey Dory. So a lot of things going on in the deck. What is it plays Unfast and it doesn't even play Energy Search Pro. So definitely one of the more interesting decks in the top 16. Godango EX and Dragon Ball EX, I would never thought I would see the 2 of them in the same deck. The next deck we have is another Lugia Vista. We are on to the top 8 now. So Lugia Vista with 2 Regidragos and 1 Drapion V. And we have 1 Serena to help with the discard. And we have 4, 8, 12, 17 energies, and there are 2 basic lightning energies. So there isn't a search for the lightning energy, so you have to draw it on hand, manually I mean. So yeah, Lugia Vista is still one of the stronger decks in the format at the moment. Yeah, 3/3 Lugia Vista is fine, and 4 bosses order for the more aggressive approach, right? So Gardevoir EX is still respected in the format at the moment. That's why you see the Drapion V. So 2 Regidragos, Regigigas. Did I say Regidrago in the previous deck list? Yeah. So I'll edit if I said Regidrago. So it's Regigigas, right? I'm pretty sure I said Regidrago. So, but never mind. That's why you have edits. Okay, so the next top 8 list we have Archaludon EX. So for those who don't know, Archaludon EX does 220 damage, and the next turn, the opponent's next turn, Archaludon EX is not affected by weakness, so you can't use a Radiant Charizard to knock it out. And when you evolve Duraludon to Archaludon EX, you may put two basic steel energies from discard pile onto it. So you just need 1 energy to set up your Archaludon EX. So we also this is the Relicann build, right? So 1 Relicann allows your Pokemon to use attacks from your previous evolution, and Duraludon does 80 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter onto it. So with a thick Archaludon EX and Relicann, you can deal a lot of damage from Archaludon EX, right? So yeah, we have Scoop Out Cyclone as the ace spec of choice. So if your Archaludon EX does get damage a lot, you can always use Scoop Out Cyclone and set up another one, right? So it's a little bit irritating to do that because 300 HP is hard for your people to knock out without weakness. So very, very strong, consistent deck. I would say just use Archaludon EX and Relicann to do huge damage. The next top 8 deck is Miraidon EX. So we have Minio. I think maybe for the Snorlax stalls. I do see some Snorlax stalls in Japan in a BO1 format. I don't know why, but I think this is just additional insurance for that. Minio does good against the mirrors somewhat, I guess. So it's not just for the Snorlax, right? That's what I'd say. So the 1 copy of Judge is interesting. You do this person wants to disrupt a bit. The energy count is pretty high, 15 lightning and 2 double turbo energies. Other than that, it's your typical Miraidon EX list, right? Yep, I probably would reduce 1 double turbo energy for 1 more Area 0 under depths, because that is really, really important to the deck. So other than that, pretty good list. Yeah, you just want to snatch going second from any Budew decks, and then you roll over your opponents. Okay, so the next top 8 deck is Cerulege EX with Budew, right? Budew can be put into any deck. What else is interesting about this deck list? Pretty much nothing. Yeah, so same as the previous Cerulege EX list, you want to discard as many energies as possible into your discard pile so that your Cerulege EX can do huge damage and gets more and more damage as the game goes on. So one copy of Carmine for Professor's Research and Radiant Greninja helps with number one, the draw, so you can discard one energy card and draw 2 cards, and number 2, get more energy cards into the discard pile. So yep, Cerulege EX is not to be looked down on. On to the top 4 lists, we have Lugia V-Star. So this is the one with 1 Regigigas, no Drapion V, interestingly enough, so thinks that he doesn't need Drapion V for the Gardevoir EX matchup. 1 Great Ball, so that is very interesting. So a little bit more adding a little bit more randomness to his deck. Yeah, very interesting without the Drapion V. I think he thinks that he doesn't need Drapion V to deal with Gardevoir EX, so managed to get top 4. The other top 4 deck list is a Dragapult EX with Budew, 2 copies of Budew this time. So, yep, what else is there? What is the... Oh, that is the Professor's Research. I was like wondering why is this guy in. Right, okay. So that is the Professor's Research. A new one, a new artwork. So, got me confused a little bit there as to what this card does. So yeah, it's a typical Dragapult EX list with 1 copy of Budew. What else is there? 3 copies of Rare Candy. I would prefer 1 more, to be honest, because it's useful for Dragapult EX and your Dusknoir. So what would I take out for the additional Rare Candy? It's either the Professor's Research or the Clef Key to be. I don't think you need Clef Key if you have Budew, but he got top 4, so he definitely a use for the Clef Key over here. Okay, on to the second place list. Surprisingly, it's an Ancient Box. So Ancient Box has been off the radar for a bit. Sometimes from time to time you do see it doing well in certain events, I think this is one of them. So the advantage of Ancient Box is it trades very well into the format. You are using 1 prizes to knock out 2 prizes, and the longer the game goes on for, the more damage you are dealing, so your trade is better. But it is very vulnerable to hand disruption. If you get Ionote to 3, 2, or even 1, and you don't have another attacker set up, it is very hard for you to set up a secondary attacker after your primary attacker has been knocked out. So you need to set up 2 attackers at any point of time, right? So this player managed to do it all the way to getting 2nd place in a Champions League, so he knows what he's doing. Any new cards? Let me see. I don't think there are any new cards for Ancient Box. So yeah, it's your very typical Ancient Box list with 3 Pokegears instead of the usual 4, 1 Palpad, 1 Duck Patch is fine. Yeah, he plays the build with 4 Ancient Boosters. So Ancient Booster, some people say it's okay, some people think you don't really need it because doesn't add a lot, right? Whichever the Pokemon which can knock out your 140 HP Pokemon is very likely to be able to knock out your 200 HP Pokemon as well. So, but I think this player still finds the need for Ancient Booster, so I think it worked well for him, right? The one copy of Ultra Ball is interesting because usually you want as many Ultra Balls as possible so that you can discard as many ancient cards as much as possible. 1 copy of Monkey Dory to prevent Dragapult EX from spreading. So congratulations to this player for making it to the final. Surprise, surprise, for the champion we have Archaludon EX list, right? So both the finalists were a little bit surprising. Not many people would expect the final to be Archaludon EX versus Ancient Box, right? So yeah, this is similar to the Archaludon EX list we have seen previously. Yeah, nothing much different except 2 jamming towers instead of the 4. So yeah, you don't really need too many jamming towers, to be honest. Jamming tower works well against Gardevoir EX. So of course maybe you play 4 so that you have a higher chance of drawing to it when you need it, right? So against Gardevoir EX, you don't use a jamming tower unless it can knock out a Drift Loom or a Scream Tail, right? So when that happens, you get 2 prizes in 1 turn. So yep, Archaludon EX with 2 Dialga V-Stars. So I think that is how I didn't watch the game, to be honest. I think that is how he won the Ancient Box. So Dialga V-Star to take multiple turns and take 2 prizes at 1 go and scoop up Cyclone in the event that the Ancient Box cannot do enough damage to 1-hit KO any of the Pokemon. So, and then you wear them down with your 3 Ionos, right? So congratulations to this player for bringing Archaludon EX to attention during the Osaka Champions League. So those were the top 16 deck lists of the recently concluded Osaka Champions League. Surprisingly, there were no Regidrago V-Stars in the top 16. That is one big shock. I thought we would expect at least a few Regidragos because I think it is one of the strongest decks in the format. But hey, stranger things have happened, right? And also we didn't see any new decks per se in the top 16. Most of them, I think, or rather all of them are old lists with new cards. But Budew especially is making it to a lot of decks, so do keep your Budews. Let me know in the comments which of the top 16 deck lists would you want to try, and were you surprised by any of the decks being in the top 16? Let me know. With that, thank you for coming to the end of this video. Sending you lots of love. See you in the next one.